Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's NeoSystems webinar, 5 Things You Need to Know About the Deltek Costpoint Contracts module. Today's presentation will be led by Susan Mitchell, NeoSystems Vice President of Professional Services ERP Systems. Now, as we go to the next slide, I just want to spend just a moment to let you know a little bit about who NeoSystems is. NeoSystems has really 4 main lines of business. The first and our newest line of business is around managed security, where we focus on CMMC compliance and supply chain readiness and education. We also do security program management and have secure enclaves in coordination with our FedRAMP hosting environment. As we speak to that hosting, we do have a FedRAMP ready cloud that is FISMA moderate. It meets the 800-171 NIST regulations, as well as ITAR and SOC 1 and SOC 2. We also offer full-blown outsourced managed services of accounting, human resources, recruitment, and information technology. And the fourth line of business, which is really what we're here focusing on today, is around systems integration. And that is anything around partnerships, including Deltek, Workday, UKG, SAP Concur, Integrify, where we perform implementations and upgrades, as well as integrations, extensibilities, and systems reviews and optimizations. So with that, I'd like to introduce our featured speaker today, Susan Mitchell, NeoSystems. Susan?
Hello, everyone. I'm Susan Mitchell, and I'm going to be talking through some of the great things about the contracts module. I'm going to kind of talk you through. So we're going to talk a little bit about customer relationships and tracking that in the opportunities area, our contract clauses and flow downs, the flow of data, and I'm actually going to walk you through a lot of this because, again, the system kind of presents itself the best. I'm going to show you kind of how you can use the word templates, and I'm also going to talk through a little bit about the workflow. So just moving over to our system. So what we're looking at right now, for those of you that may not have seen the contracts module, it's divided into essentially 3 main parts. So it's opportunities, contracts, and subcontracts. So within what we're looking at on the screen is my sample opportunity ID. So for those of you, and a lot of CEOs and business development folks are really liking this piece because it's kind of taken things that you used to collect, say, in like Salesforce and things like that, and allows you to collect that information in Costpoint now. So we can track our opportunities, our information about that opportunity. And one of the nice things about that is we can track our contact information. So if we are, going through and having discussions with people and things like that, we have a place where we can go and track our activities that we've been doing. So in regards to that opportunity or that lead, because we can track either in Costpoint 7, we can track either in this screen, leads or opportunities. We can actually identify like what we've been doing, what activities we've had, what interactions and things. So if I had a phone call, if I discussed the opportunities, if it was, I can say how we did that. I can say if it was an email, if it was, anything like that. And we have the flexibility to define that in the system. So if there's different methods, like if we have specific ones that we want to track, we as the users or as the company have the ability to set up those different types. And we could come in here and schedule activities. So if every opportunity we had kind of specific types of contacts that we wanted to have with them, or we had a process of kind of how we follow up on those opportunities and leads, we could actually, identify those activities and define them in here and say, when they've been completed, who did it. We can say who was at the meeting, like if we had a meeting or anything like that. So it's a very useful tool when it comes to being able to track that information. In addition, our opportunity also allows us to track our stage. So we can say, what stage the opportunity is at, and we do have the ability to define those also in the system. One thing I will tell you is the system comes out of the box with a lot of that information pre-populated. So they do give you kind of Deltek does give you kind of some, maybe best practices, but you can customize it to your business. So just as an example, like if it was types of opportunities, you can go in and, identify what types of opportunities you track or the source of it. And you can identify those sources. Again, these are pick lists that you can customize. So from an overall perspective, Deltek has given us a nice area to track our opportunities and our contacts and everything. We also have the ability to go in and put RFP information and dates. So from that, if you use, a lot of people used to use like the Shipley method and stuff like that. So you could go in if you have, red team, gold team, white team, all the different reviews, you could go in when you identify that opportunity, like once it's an RFP, and you could put in those dates specific to that and track those and send, information to people. You can also go in and identify your team. So you can identify if you have different roles in your team of people, like what they do on the opportunity. You can track who's working on the opportunity. You can attach the workforce that is going to be proposed on that opportunity, and you can track your teammate and partners that are going to be working on that opportunity with you also. In addition, you have your post-award debrief that you can track. That's also in here. And the other nice thing about this is that you can track your B&P project. So once your B&P project has been set up for this particular project, you can see the B&P project that's associated with it. And if you wanted to see costs, you actually can go in here and you can print a PSR. So if I was to click down in here and I go up to my print, you'll see that I have my print status report, print non-labor detail report, and print labor summary report. So I could track my charging towards this opportunity and the costs that have been going towards that. The one thing I will say is that Deltek has an entire roadmap kind of around these modules and things like that. And if you've been looking at some of the Costpoint 8 information, you'll notice in that they've actually added another screen to the contracts module specifically for leads. So they've separated the leads from the opportunities so that if you have less information, like you wanted to separate it out, you could do that also. Moving on, so we'll go to our next area that we have is our contracts. So one of the things that Deltek has done is that once we win an opportunity, we have the ability to come in and create the contract off of it. And what that does is if we check this box that says Costpoint opportunity, it allows us to select that opportunity ID and pull the information that we had already entered over in the opportunity on over into the contracts module. So what this does is it then allows us to go in and put in our all of our contract information that we would have. It allows us to put, as many of you know, like it used to be that we had to have either an extensibility or something like that to actually put our contract information in. Deltek now has all of those questions for government contractors that we all need, that we need to answer to have, the standard contract brief. In addition, it has we have the ability to put in our FAR clauses that are associated with the contract. So I can go in here and it comes with certain ones defaulted in, but I have the ability to go in and load additional ones. So if I had contracts with another entity that had specific clauses and things that I needed, I can load those in also. And those would be under another little tab called supplemental clauses. But in regards to my FAR clauses, I have the ability to say that if it's applicable to this contract, and then I can also identify if it's a flow down. So if it's one that I need to flow down to my subcontractors, I can identify it in here and say if it's optional, if it's required or not required. So I have the ability to say at the master contract level, whether or not I'm going to need that to flow down. And I'll show you in a minute where that goes to the subcontractor. But in addition, we have all of this information in here. So our team came over from our opportunity And we have the ability to then go in and assign, we can load, we have the ability to load from our opportunity, or we can choose to re-enter, whichever is applicable to this contract. We also have our customer information that comes in modifications. You can see our modification in here. Now, the one nice thing that Deltek has also added is that if we want to, is what we call word templates. So Deltek actually provides to us on their website, on the support site, an area where we can go download some of those word templates that they have kind of standard, and we can use those. So this particular one that I have is contract is not cooperating. Well, my apologies for that. For some reason, my brief is not working right this moment. But normally it will pull up the contract brief, our supplier vendor rating info. So if we have the ability to go in our setup and say what supplier vendor information that we want for this particular contract. And then we have any contract closeout information. So in addition to everything that we have our contract closeout information that we can track, and we can identify, when each one of these items has been done, who's done it, if we had disposition of property or anything like that, and then we have our final sign off. Okay. So then continuing on, we have the ability also, if we have our projects that are linked to it, to go and see any PSR information. So if I wanted to see my PSR that's associated with this contract, I could go in and see my PSR. So we have the ability to do that. So the contracts, what this allows us to do is it then allows the contracts folks to see our project information associated with that. Okay, and then in addition, we have activities. Again, we have our activities tab where we can track any of our activities that are going on with that. So if our contracts team is having discussions about something in relation to our contract, they can track that within here also, any of that, correspondence or anything like that. And then for project initialization, we can go from within this screen, and it will take us to our mass add screen, and we can actually set up our project from within the contracts module if we would like. So then going on to our subcontracts area, this is the subcontract that was related to that particular contract. So I can go down in here when I go into my subcontract info, and I can see my clauses that I flowed down, that were flowed down from the master contract. So in here, I know what ones were in the master contract and whether or not I want to include them in my subcontract. And in addition, I can tell it whether to send to the PO or not to send to the PO. So that's a nice little function. We also have we can identify our requisitions that are associated with the subcontract. So this was my purchase requisition. This one's currently sitting in approval. So I can go see whatever that, requisition was. If I had a purchase order that had been issued, I would see my purchase order also in here. And if I was using the subcontractor management module, I could see the work assignments associated also. I also have my scope of work that I can enter in, and then my supplier and vendor rating. So once I actually want to go back and, rate my vendor, my supplier, then I have the ability to do that in here also. Okay. So then in regards to our other, one other thing that, and this is something that will interest the budgeting and planning folks that are out there. We have the ability to go and do what we call new business budgets. So within Costpoint in version 7, there currently is nothing that links our new business budget to our opportunity. But in version 8, there is actually a checkbox that links the two together. And then we can go in and put basically our pricing information. So I could use my new business budget to go in and identify, who was working on that. I have the ability, I can either use named resources that I have in the system, or I could set up a new, basically set it up by PLC per se. So it could be a project engineer or something like that. So I have the ability to link that also back to my new opportunity. The last item that I want to mention is that we do have the ability in here using our workflow stuff, and let me find my, excuse me. We have the ability to do workflow. So there's in various screens, there are places where it will ask you to check items so that it will basically kick off a workflow. So one of them is where, and you'll have to forgive me because I am, right. So in here, like this particular screen where it has RFP info, you can say request bid and proposal setup, and then identify, who it should notify, and it will kick off a workflow to do that. So what I will tell you is, if none of you are familiar with, the workflow or the Word templates, what I can tell you is if you go into the Deltek support site, you can go in and see, and you type in Word contracts, Word templates, there is a place that you can download those. In addition, if you're not used to having set up workflow or anything in Costpoint, there's 2 good documents that are out on the Deltek support site that I would refer you to. The first one is the Approval Workflows Guide, which is essentially a step-by-step, kind of document of how to do it. And if that doesn't necessarily, that's not the way, that's not your learning style per se, then you have the option, if you have access to the Deltek Learning Zone, to go out to the demo of the Understanding System Administration workflow. So what that is it's actually a tutorial that walks you through step by step, actually doing it, how to set up a workflow. So essentially utilizing that, you can set up, you can identify any of these various fields that you would want to have, something like push a workflow on if somebody, entered something or did something, and use that to notify people about the things that are going on with the contract. So that's pretty much all I have. So I will turn it over for questions if anyone would like to ask anything.
Thanks, Susan. We do have a few questions that have come in, and I just want to make one note, ladies and gentlemen, if you do have any questions, you can enter those in using that Q&A section here within the Zoom meeting, and we'll get to as many of those as we can here in the next few minutes. One question that came in, Susan, is what type of reporting is provided out of the box for opportunities?
So within opportunities, we have kind of what I'll call some of the usual reports. So we have an opportunity pipeline. So you can go in and you can filter it various ways. So you can filter it on the business unit lead, the primary customer, the stage of the opportunity, and you can have it filter in different ways. So we'll just pull one of these up. So this one, for example, it's showing my opportunities. So this is the standard, kind of out of the box. And you do have the ability when you're going through your design that you can say whether or not you want certain, like when you identify your stages, you can say, I want this stage to be included on my pipeline report or not on my pipeline report. So there is flexibility with what you show on the report. You can also say, you know, print opportunity days, how long an opportunity has been open. So again, this one will tell you, you know, how many days it's been done, how many days it's been out there, and then opportunity win-loss. So you can do this in a variety of different, you know, ways. You can print it by primary customer, date change, you know, you can have secondary sorts and things like that. And you can filter, you know, on RFP date, date closed, all of these different options.
Great, thanks, Susan. So we've got a number of other questions that have come in. Next question is, where are some of these fields housed? So they mean, are they separate from other Costpoint modules? And the example they give is, does a customer need to be added for leave in AR?
Does a customer need to be added for leave?
So they're giving an example of, are the fields that we're looking in here, where are those housed? Are they separate from in the Costpoint contracts module, or are they flowing throughout the entire Costpoint system? I think is what they
So
mean.
they flow throughout the entire Costpoint system. So if we go down here and we looked at this primary customer and this lookup, this is coming from the Costpoint customer ID field. You know, the same area that we are populating when we come over into here. So that information is coming from this table right here. One thing I will tell you is that over in the contracts module, if you have a new customer that came up, you have the ability to come in and basically do kind of what I'll call a request. So you can come in, you know, say your business development folks, they have a new customer, they can come in here and essentially propose that prospective customer, and then there's an approval process that, say, someone from who does your projects or whatever, if they're the ones that are the keeper of the customer IDs, they could come in here and approve it and make sure that all the information was there that they needed to be over in the customer area. In version 7, it does not automatically update the customer ID once they approve it. In version 8, it does. So just that's one little change between the two versions.
All right, great. Next question, Susan, is how do the opportunities get uploaded to the opportunities module?
So with the opportunities module, what I will tell you is there's a couple of ways. So for those people that are using Gov1IQ, you can actually there is actually a link that there's an integration that we can set up that automatically, like once you flag it in Gov1IQ as an opportunity that your company wants to pursue, when you run that refresh, it will update all of that information from Gov1IQ over into your opportunities module. And there's actually a separate tab, as you can see on the screen, that will populate. If you're not using Gov1IQ, then it would be one of those things where you come in here and enter your opportunities as you know, any of the ones that come up.
Okay, next question is, can you show where the workflows are defined in Costpoint?
Yes, so workflows are defined over in the approval workflow area. So this is the area that I was talking about, that if you go and you look up that information, this is where all of your workflow will be done.
Okay, great. Next question is, how do you add labor categories and rates for subcontracts?
Labor categories and rates for subcontracts. So when you're doing your subcontract and you're going through and you are going through the requisition process, so when you've gone into your requisition and you're actually entering that information, so we'll go over here to so this is where we would enter our subcontractor labor information. We have the ability, if you're using the subcontractor management module, you can actually go into resources and you can enter, you know, by the individual resource, the PLC, the hourly rate, and everything like that. If you are not, and you can assign the vendor employee if you know it. If you are not using subcontractor management, some people will do a line item of the PLC. So they might say systems engineer for that line item, 300 hours at $259 as the rate or something like that. And that's how they'll deal with it. Next question.
Yes, next question is, can you show an illustration of what the PO looks like when specific clauses are applicable to a subcontractor?
Hang on. I do not have, what I will tell you is I do not have one readily available right now, but if whoever that was will put their, send me their name or whatever, I will find that and send that to you.
Okay, great. And there's a question, Susan, about how is the pricing structured for the contracts module? Is it by user or by company size or by some other metric?
I am not absolutely sure how it's licensed. That would probably be a better question for your Deltek sales rep. But I believe that it is done the same way as the rest of Costpoint, meaning I think it's number of users or whatever. But I would say don't check with your Deltek rep on that because I'm not absolutely sure.
Okay, we did have a question about a link to the recording of this webinar. We will be making that available. That should be up on our website to be viewable on demand by the end of the day today. So you can either check late this afternoon or anytime tomorrow, and that should be up on our website in the resources area under the on-demand webinar section. You'll be able to see this webinar presentation video there. So that looks like it'll do, Susan. Plenty of great questions from the audience. So I want to certainly thank you for your time and for the presentation today. I also want to thank everyone who gave about half an hour of their day to us to view the presentation. And again, if anyone has any additional questions, you can feel free to reach out to Susan. Her contact information is right there on the screen. Or certainly you can reach us through our website, neosystemscorp.com. And as I mentioned, the recording of this webinar will be made available on our website later today or early tomorrow. So that'll do it for us. Again, thank you all very much. Susan, thank you for your time, and I wish everyone a great afternoon.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.